I love the Oscars, but the Academy doesn't always get it right. Hey, it's Michael, aka Oscar Man. And in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts about mistakes I think the Academy has made over the years that affected the awards ceremony. Now, I'm not going to cover who should have won or lost, who was snubbed, shocking moments, that kind of stuff. Instead, I want to talk about questionable decisions, such as doubling the nominees for Best Picture from 5 to 10. In 2009, the Board of Governors approved increasing the number because, quote, having 10 Best Picture nominees is going to allow Academy voters to recognize and include some of the fantastic movies that often show up in the other Oscar categories but have been squeezed out of the race for the top prize. The quicker answer? The Academy got blasted the year prior when The Dark Knight was omitted from the Best Picture lineup. Other blockbuster films didn't make the list in earlier years, and oftentimes the 5 nominees for Best Picture represented smaller films which received critical praise but were unknown to the general public. At the same time, voting for Best Picture changed from the winner receiving the most votes to preferential voting, which is a tiered system whereupon an Academy member ranks all the nominees, and the one receiving the highest number of first place votes wins, which would explain many of the surprise winners over the years since the rule was implemented. And while the new rule meant there could be anywhere from 5 to 10 nominees in the category, the rule was changed yet again in 2021, where the category must have 10 nominated films. Now, in my opinion, many of these movies would never have been nominated for Best Picture before the Academy created a quota. Yes, I know there were as many as 12 nominees for Best Picture in the early years, but look at 1939, for example. It made sense. To me, it doesn't now. Also starting in 2009, instead of having the prior year's winner of lead and supporting actor and actress presenting the award to their respective counterparts, 5 previous winners came out and paid tributes to the nominees. The first year, it was different and seemed like a nice touch, especially because such rarely seen legends as Sophia Loren and Eva Marie Saint participated. The downside was that no clips of the nominated performances were shown, and as in the case of the 2024 ceremony, the scripted patter displayed little to no connection between the presenter and the nominee of whom they were speaking. So I prefer the tradition of last year's winner presenting the Oscar to this year's winner, and show film clips from their performances. It's the best part. Now, everyone knows I would love to win an Oscar, and it doesn't matter whether it's for lead or supporting. I'll take it. But when the Academy first decided to honor supporting performances, beginning with films of 1936, they made the odd decision to award the winners with plaques instead of a full-size trophy. Now, why were supporting winners considered less than? One winner, Mary Astor, who won Best Supporting Actress for 1941's The Big Lie, actually wrote to the Academy in the 1970s and asked them to send her an adult Oscar, which they did. That one remains with her family, while her plaque sold at auction for nearly $200,000. Oh, and beginning with the 1944 ceremony, supporting winners also got the grown-up sized Oscar statue. Speaking of feeling less than, the winners in 8 technical categories were definitely second-class citizens at the 2022 ceremony, when the Academy, under pressure from ABC, presented those awards before the broadcast in an attempt to shorten the ceremony's length. Of course, the decision was met with instant backlash from Steven Spielberg to Best Actress winner Jessica Chastain.
I will absolutely be present when the makeup team, the makeup category is being called. And if that means I'm not doing press on the red carpet for ABC or whatever it is, then so be it.
In 1997, the Tony Awards split the show in 2, with the technical awards presented earlier on PBS before the network broadcast showcased the awards that were deemed the ones audiences were most interested in. But the Oscars ain't the Tony Awards, and the following year, winners in every category were permitted to appear on the Oscar telecast. A couple of questions for you. What do you think of the orchestra being directed to play off winners with music when it is determined their speeches are too long?
Including Rhythm and Hughes. Sadly, Rhythm and Hughes is suffering severe financial difficulties right now. I urge you all to remember.
This never happens with acting or directing winners, only the ones in those lesser than categories. Do you think this is disrespectful, or is it necessary for some long-winded recipients to get the musical hook? And what about that scripted banter between presenters? Do you find it funny, or like me, forced and often embarrassing?
And it's been a great year for lesbians.
That's right.
Not just in general, but in movies.
The kids are all right.
Lesbians.
Black Swan.
Dancing lesbians.
Toy Story 3.
Where's the dad?
Thankfully, one of the very worst decisions made by the Academy didn't come to pass. Faced with declining public interest in the ceremony, resulting in lower ratings, the Academy proposed a new category, the Academy Award for Best Popular Film, which was to commence in 2018. Films nominated in this category would also be eligible for nomination as Best Picture. The intent was to include box office blockbusters that the Academy knew would never receive recognition in its standard categories, thus pleasing large members of the audience who otherwise wouldn't be interested in films they don't see or have never heard of. A month later, the Academy changed its mind amidst criticism from the industry, who rightly stated that it was a lame attempt to pander to viewers in an attempt to bolster ratings. The membership of the Academy, consisting of professionals in all aspects of filmmaking, may not always get it right when they vote. But the Oscars are not the People's Choice Awards, nor should they ever be. Best Song. Well, it used to be a great category back in the day when people actually knew the nominated tunes. Over the years, the Academy made a slew of changes that were questionable at best. When the Best Song category was first created, the only rule was that it had to appear in a film which met eligibility requirements. Because of winning songs like The Last Time I Saw Paris, which was written years prior to the film in which it appeared, the rules were changed so that only songs written specifically for the film would be eligible. That meant that the songs appearing in previously produced works, such as a Broadway musical, would not make the list. That is why you won't find these memorable numbers as nominees or winners. Then there is the drama about who can perform a nominated song. In fact, the Best Song nominees weren't even part of the Oscar ceremony until 1946, and the task was assigned to singers not necessarily affiliated with the film in which the song appeared. Cut to 1965, when Robert Goulet sang all of the nominated songs. In 1970, the Academy's rule was that only the people who had performed the song in the film were permitted to sing it on the live telecast, even if a hit version was performed by another act. But hang on, in 1973, the rule was amended again, and the honor was first offered to either the original artist or artists who performed the song in the film, followed by the artist or artists who had the hit record with it. However, in cases where neither was interested or available, the Academy would choose a performer they felt was most suitable to sing on the Oscar show. In 1985, Phil Collins was passed over to perform his nominated composition Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now, because the producers of the telecast were not familiar with his work. Instead, the better-known Anne Reinking performed the song as Collins sat in the audience. Remember the Oscar shows from 1989, 2010, and 2012? Well, none of the nominated songs were performed on the telecast. The 1989 ceremony is noteworthy for other decisions, including changing the announcement from
And the winner is...
To...
And the Oscar goes to...
As well as this memorable opening number. However, I need to add that the show also included the final public appearance by Lucy, who passed away a month later. I have a long spiel to give about one of, if not the worst, decision made by the Academy. But before I do, I want to thank each of you for being an important part of this channel. I've learned a lot from many of you, and I appreciate your great feedback and continued support. After some concluding remarks by an Oscar winner, it would be helpful if you hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, consider joining our friendly and very knowledgeable community with a new video each week, as well as daily polls where your vote counts. The 2021 ceremony. At first, I was relieved that the Oscars were even going to take place, given the ongoing pandemic and concerns about public gatherings. The show was delayed until April, giving more time for films released after 2020 to be considered. One of the problems, though, was that these films were only available via streaming services, so a large amount of people were not able to see them. When the nominations came out, there was already some disinterest among the public, but the first jaw-dropping decision was to move the ceremony from the Kodak Theater in Hollywood to, of all places, Union Station in downtown Los Angeles. In retrospect, it was a fitting choice since the show was an absolute train wreck. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the area, Union Station opened in 1939 and is one of the major transportation hubs for Southern California. It is 1 mile from the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, where the Oscars were held for over 10 years. But it is also 1 mile from Skid Row. So this was a curious decision and raised questions as to why a small theater in a more suitable area couldn't have been chosen instead. This just made no sense. And the way they arranged the seating for the ceremony was, well, weird. Now, of course, I understand that the show's producers were trying to work with all the restrictions put upon them during this challenging time, as if the location was the show's only problem. In a year where there wasn't much the show could do in terms of live performances, an extensive use of film clips would have been a no-brainer. When announcing the nominees, no clips were shown. Did that make sense to anyone? And while a live orchestra wasn't feasible, why choose a DJ who played songs that had absolutely no connection to the winners rather than use music from the films representing the respective nominees? Take a listen to the music playing when Yoo Jung-yoon won Best Supporting Actress. Yeah, that definitely related to her film, Minari. And what was with the camera angles, not shooting the winner straight on? Of course, the major blunder was shifting Best Picture, a category always saved for last, to earlier in the telecast. We all know that was done so that the final two categories would be lead actress and actor, the latter saved for last because the producers, and most of us, were so confident that the late Chadwick Boseman would win, which would make for an emotional conclusion. The manipulation spectacularly backfired because Anthony Hopkins won instead, and presenter Joaquin Phoenix was left standing there with nothing much to say. The show ended with a thud, and the ratings fell dramatically to historic lows. Should the Academy have just presented the awards virtually, as they did for the Golden Globes and SAGs? Or should they have just skipped that year? What are some of the more questionable decisions made by the Academy that you can think of? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and let the discussions begin. And until the next video, I'll leave you with this.
Here you are hosting the Oscars in 2011 with James Franco. We
Sucked.
sucked.